In the immortal words of Keanu Reeves, whoa. Blood Machines is an 80s synth rock infused sci-fi epic sequel to a music video called Turbo Killer. We follow Vascan and Lago, played respectively by Anders, no relation, Henriksen, and Christian Eriksen. They are two Blade Runners, yes, you heard that right, that are tracking down a spaceship's rogue AI that has crash-landed on a planet. Upon arriving, they meet Corey, who is played by Alyssa Lasowski and is trying to heal the AI and perform some type of ritual. Through a course of events, the dying AI manifests itself in the form of a human woman. A naked human woman. Like butt ass, not a shred of clothing, and she gives no fucks about that situation. She takes off into the stratosphere, and being Blade Runners, regardless of what form this rogue AI takes, they are tasked with taking it down. So, with Corey in tow, they follow in pursuit. This movie's billed as the sequel to the Carpenter Brut music video Turbo Killer, which was directed by the team of Seth Eckerman that directed this film as well. Seth Eckerman is actually comprised of two French filmmakers named Raphael Hernandez and Salvatore Jolie Goffard. And Carpenter Brut, who did the music for the original video and this movie, is actually the French synthwave musician Franck Hassou. I probably fucked up all those names, by the way, but you know what? I gave it my all. The original Turbo Killer music video that this is based on was actually pretty cool. Well, I guess it had somewhat of a story to tell. It was more of a visual treat. It was really nice to look at and very entertaining. The music and the visuals had a very heavy 80s synth rock wave feel to it all. And it was a great song and a great video. So when I heard that they were going to make a sequel to this video in the form of an actual movie, I was pretty excited. Until I thought about it a little bit. While yes, this whole visual style and everything they had going on in the Turbo Killer video worked great in a 5-minute chunk, I did start to wonder if that would really translate over to a full-on movie. And while I have been really excited about seeing Blood Machines since I saw its first trailer, that hesitation as to whether they'll be able to sustain that entertainment throughout the full length of a movie was always there in the back of my head. So the movie's finally out, and they released it on Shudder. Now they did this weird thing where they split it into 3 parts instead of just keeping it as one single movie. I don't really know the point to this, because as far as I know, there's not supposed to be any more to this, but I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. Instead of just watching one continuous movie, you're gonna watch it in 3 chunks. It doesn't really make much of a difference. So I guess the big question is, after this long wait and all that hesitation, how was it? Holy shit! This movie was fucking amazing! You have never seen anything quite like this movie. And all that hesitation I had got thrown right out the fucking window. I was afraid that it was gonna kind of be like one big long music video, and it's not that. It actually does have a cohesive story to tell. Now granted, closer to the end, things get real metaphorical and deep. There's gonna be a lot of talk about that ending amongst the people that do watch this movie. It's some pretty deep, trippy ass shit. I mean like the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey deep, trippy ass shit. And much like 2001, I think people will be debating the end of this movie for quite some time. Not really whether it's good or not, because it is. No, they'll be debating what the fuck it all means. Ultimately, the story is really interesting, and they do lure you in with a much more grounded sci-fi take in the beginning. And then they thrust you into a deep, trippy tale about humanity and the birth of new life. I did like how the movie started out much more traditional in its storytelling method. There's dialogue and all the stuff that we're used to seeing in movies, but as the movie progresses, it becomes a much more visual experience. Yes, there's dialogue throughout, however, it does get less and less, and you are told this story more through a visual medium than people just telling you what's going on. And while the movie isn't particularly long, it does it in a very smooth, organic way that you don't notice it. You remember the movie starting with a good amount of dialogue and in a more traditional sense, and by the time you get to the end, there's hardly any dialogue at all, and the vast majority of what you're taking in is visual. I honestly can't tell you when that happened, because it just kind of happened naturally and organically. Speaking of those visuals, this movie is a fucking visual masterpiece. Everything else aside in this movie, story, if it was successful in said story, acting, if nothing else, this movie is worth the price of admission just for the visual splendor. Oh my god, it is a fucking beautiful movie. And the special effects, which there are a shit ton of, are just fantastic. The movie does have a very 80s sci-fi stylized grunge feel to it, but it still looks fantastic and just really works. The story could come across as a bit light due to the way that it's told. However, the movie does actually have quite a bit to say about humanity, but it is a bit more experimental in the way that it tells its story. It is much more visual than we're used to seeing, which kind of contradicts itself, but you know what I mean. You don't have characters constantly vomiting exposition to you to let you know what's going on in the story. You see it, it's right there. You make your mind up of what's going on. Now granted, closer to the end, I think that things do get a bit more, it's your interpretation of what happens. Much like the aforementioned 2001, there's lots of trippy crazy shit going on, but there is a message there. It's up to you, the viewer, to decide what that message is. The performances here are all pretty good. As far as like your dialogue and acting, everybody does a fairly solid job. Anders Henriksen's Vascan has a few moments of some stiff dialogue, but I think that that might be a bit of a language barrier issue, because while he is speaking English and you can understand him totally fine, I don't think that that's his first language. And the couple of stiff parts of dialogue did come across as more of a lost in translation type of thing instead of his acting skills. But even those couple of moments don't ruin the experience by any means. As I said, this is a much more visual movie, so the dialogue being a little light in places is okay. Christian Eriksen's Lago does a fantastic job here translating information to you, the viewer, without saying a word half the time. He does have dialogue and he does a really good job with all that as well, but he does a fantastic job of just telling us things through his facial expressions alone that puts him up a little bit above everybody else. Seeing as how this movie is a sequel to a music video, I of course have to talk about the music. And man, just like the rest of the movie, this music is fucking awesome. If you in the slightest like that 80s synth wave sound, you're gonna love this. The soundtrack's been out for a while before the movie, and it's just fantastic from beginning to end. Now, I'm not an audiophile. I review movies, not music, so I can't really like deep dive into the intricacies of the sound of this music and everything that's going on with it. But what I can say in my simple movie reviewer terms is that the music in Blood Machines is pretty fucking cool. Absolutely worth seeking out and getting this soundtrack. There's some great music here that I've been playing for the past couple of weeks, and it still hasn't gotten old. On a side note, if you do like the music in this movie, which you should, check out Carpenter Brut's other stuff on YouTube. He's got some really cool songs with some crazy ass videos. Good stuff all around. Now, while I've raved about how great this movie is up to this point, I will say I acknowledge that this movie is not going to be for everybody. However, it is short enough that even those that aren't into what the movie has to say, I think will still be mesmerized by the film's visual splendor. When I say that cliched line that this movie is a visual masterpiece, I really mean it. This movie is fucking beautiful. While the dialogue and the story and everything else in the movie absolutely makes the experience as well, it is truly the visuals here that sell the whole experience. And not just good special effects visuals, I mean like these shots. Every frame of this movie seems like a piece of art. It's really that gorgeous. And when it comes to these more visual experiences like this that we get in some movies, it doesn't always fully work. And while the fairly short length of this movie may have something to do with it, the fact of the matter is here it absolutely works. It can be rare that your expectations for a film are actually met. And it can be even more rare when those expectations are exceeded. But that is exactly what Blood Machines does. This is a fantastically made film with a great story that's like watching art in motion. Gonford and Hernandez or Seth Eckerman, or hell, they could call themselves fucking Peanut Butter and Jelly Squad. I don't care as long as they make more of this. After seeing this film, I can't imagine what their next project would be. But I'll tell you what, I will be there day one to watch it. Because Blood Machines is a work of art, but it is also a unicorn. When I say you've never seen anything like this before, I mean you have never seen anything like this before. This movie is absolutely worth tracking down and seeing, and should be seen by all. So there it is, guys, my review of Blood Machines. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Portland. This movie's really cool, and it's got some great imagery and just all kinds of great stuff. But something else it is very sexual. There's not like any sex in the movie, but there's a lot of sexual imagery. And it is very sensual. I mean, I'm not like bashful about that stuff whatsoever, but I will say that this movie, even in its dirtiest moments and its just oddest moments, was extremely sensual. It made me feel kind of funny, and I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I've perhaps learned something about myself today. I don't know, but you know, that toaster over there is starting to look kind of sexy now.